Survive on snacks. A zombie apocalypse love story. Prologue, day 300. My name is Sunny Winters, and I run an online snack shop. I figured nobody had more supplies stockpiled than I did. Turned out I was right. Today marks day 300 since the zombie outbreak. My house never lacked for snacks, though my 2 roommates could really put it away. This is how we got here. Part 1, the last days before. When are you shipping my order? Can you give me a discount? Why hasn't my package moved? Are you running some kind of scam? Black Friday notifications pinged like a death knell. I destroyed 2 keyboards and now sprawled in my gaming chair, defeated. That morning, the city's shipping carriers had suspended all outgoing deliveries. Pandemic restrictions. This was going to ruin me. Through tears, I posted a delay notice and watched my return rate climb. That afternoon, 2 delivery drivers wheeled 80 returned boxes to my door. I paid each an extra $200 to haul everything up to my attic warehouse. The new guy whistled when he entered. Wow, this loft is huge. When you're in e-commerce, you need the space. The attic stretched impressively, half filled with shelving units packed with every snack imaginable. 2 years of hustling had bought me this 3-story townhouse outright. The attic conversion saved me rental costs. Following my directions, they stacked boxes near 3 chest freezers and a commercial beverage cooler. 2 freezers held frozen meals and meat. The third, nothing but ice cream. Cured sausages and bacon hung on the wall behind them. My savings, the result of aggressive sale shopping. Hoarding was my guilty pleasure. The next few days blurred together in a chaos of package pickups and deliveries. My phone exploded with notifications, clothes, groceries, household items, blind boxes. 5 mystery perishable boxes that I signed for without remembering ordering, and somehow 200 jugs of water. Miss Winters, you ordered 200 jugs of water. Our driver is at your gate. During Black Friday, my water supplier had been running a promotion. 15-liter jugs, buy one, get one free, only $10. Can you deliver to my door? Door delivery would cost an extra $500, though we can give you 20% off. I nearly canceled, but the boss talked me into it. I bit the bullet and paid. For a long time afterward, I'd be grateful for that moment of weakness. Sis, remember to water my plants. Parker, my only brother, a junior studying agricultural biotech, had been away at a regional competition for nearly a month. Our parents divorced when I was 7. Mom got me, Dad got Parker. Within a year, both remarried. Parker and I were sent to live with our grandmother. When I turned 18, Grandma passed away. Our father came back for the funeral, left us money, and disappeared abroad. I'd skipped college to start a business. Years later, once I'd made decent money, I took Parker from our unwelcoming uncle's house and supported him through elite private school until he got into a prestigious university. Me, Your Highness, when are you coming home? Your plants are dying. Parker, landing at 3 p.m. Grumbling, I watered his balcony greenhouse 2/3 soil bordered by red bricks, the rest my swing chair and potted flowers, plus a solar generator Parker had helped improve. That generator had cut our electricity bill by 2/3. The vegetables thrived, sealed behind double-layer privacy, glass-insulated, soundproof, warm. After watering, I lounged on the swing, plucking a tomato. Several low-flying helicopters caught my attention. I snapped photos, posted them to Instagram with a sarcastic caption. Likes rolled in quickly. Old grudge. Woman? Lonely? Old grudge. I'm coming, babe. I cursed and blocked the guy again. This old grudge was Ethan Cross, a customer who'd pursued me relentlessly 3 years ago. I'd been young and stupid, seduced by his looks and money. 3 months in, while I was running a fever, he broke up via text. Incompatibility. Blocked me. The stress sent me to the hospital. A week later, I saw him at the mall with some woman I'd never met. I dumped bubble tea all over them. You bastard, I hope you rot. I'd sealed my heart in concrete after that. But 2 years later, he started frantically apologizing, begging to get back together. I ignored him. He found my shop, created fake accounts, placed $1,000 orders. His messages were always oddly timed, 2 a.m., 4 a.m. like he kept irregular hours. When I was bored, I'd play along. If the sucker wanted to spend money, let him. At 2:30, I rushed to the airport, overslept from my nap. Halfway there, a courier called about a delivery. I'm not home, leave it at the door. After picking up Parker, I let out a massive sneeze. He draped his jacket over my shoulders. "Sis, you caught a chill again." "I barely leave the house. I'm clearly sick from missing you so much." Parker had grown into a tall, handsome young man. Raising him had been like living out a perfect coming-of-age story. I was a total brother worshiper. "The flu and pandemic are getting worse. You should be careful too." After dinner at a Japanese restaurant, Parker stopped at a pharmacy. I waited in the car, editing photos. Urgent brakes screeched from across the intersection. Crash! My hands froze on my phone. The world narrowed to the intersection ahead. A mid-size bus flipped into a parked semi-truck, the front completely mangled. Blood-curdling screams erupted from inside. "Help! Monster, get away!" A passing car stopped, taillights illuminating the wreckage. Through the window, I saw a blood-smeared woman pounding desperately to escape. From behind her, 2 hands emerged, 2 fingers missing, dripping blood and wrapped around her neck. A grotesquely twisted male head leaned against her shoulder. Ashen face, torn mouth, pure white eyeballs. He leaned in and bit down. Not just bit devoured. Blood splattered across the window. The nearby driver reached for his door handle. My throat seized, but my voice wouldn't come. "No, don't." A sand truck roared past, drowning my warnings. When it passed, the creature had smashed through the window and lunged at the driver, tearing into his neck with low, animalistic growls. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely cover my mouth. I stumbled back to the car, vision tunneling. Other victims crawled out through shattered glass in horrifically contorted poses, throwing themselves at the driver. Parker emerged from the pharmacy carrying bags. The lead creature noticed him, released the mangled body, and began shambling toward my brother. Though 30 meters apart, its speed increased rapidly. Parker, checking his receipt, hadn't noticed. "Parker, run! That thing's coming for you!" He looked up just as the grotesque figure lurched toward him, neck twisted at unnatural angles. I started the car, threw open the passenger door. "Move it! Parker, get in!" The zombie let out a low warning growl. Parker sprinted toward the car, but carrying those bags slowed him down. The zombie accelerated. 8 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters, 1 meter. "Faster! Drop the bags! Parker!" Parker made one final leap over the barrier and dove into the car. But as he reached to close the door, the zombie leaped too, grabbing his jacket, one bloody hand jamming through the gap. "Close the door!" I floored the gas. The zombie dragged alongside, shrieking. The open door warning beep mixed with chaos. "I can't! I have to shake it off!" Parker pulled desperately at the door. The crazed zombie rammed its head against the cracking window. The stench of rotting blood seeped through. Let's see whose head is harder. I grabbed my stun baton, cranked it to maximum voltage, rolled down the window. When the zombie lunged forward, I smashed it down 3 times on its head. "Take that." The zombie convulsed, head charred, but still wouldn't release Parker's jacket. Parker found his moment, shoved the door open, kicked the zombie away with perfect precision, slammed the door shut. Finally, we could breathe. Through the rearview mirror, the creature rolled a dozen times, then got back up seconds later, staggering around. I clutched my pounding heart, trying to stop my hands from shaking. "Parker, what was that?" He told me what the research lab at Clearwater Bay had been working on. There'd been rumors about their lead scientist, some white-haired researcher who'd been developing biological weapons before the government supposedly shut him down. Mutated, living dead. Zombies. Passing through an area that had just lifted lockdown, roadside food stalls bustled with pedestrians, vibrant normalcy that made everything feel like a dream. "Parker, are we going to die?" "What are you thinking?" he sighed. I didn't really know. Just scared. Scared of that moment when the zombie might have caught Parker. We discussed stockpiling supplies, buying self-defense tools. I'd fully accepted we were living in a zombie apocalypse. I wanted Parker and me to survive together. While Parker placed bulk orders at the nearest 24-hour grocery, I hesitated. Should we call the police? That road is a known accident hotspot. Night Patrol should discover it soon. If we report now, police might call us in. If things escalate and it's serious out there, leaving would be risky. Parker was right. We went home. Opening our door, the first thing we saw was the mountain of packages I hadn't unpacked. Parker froze. "Sis, what's all this?" "Black Friday." I smiled sheepishly. Haven't had time yet. Parker shook his head helplessly. Go wash up. I'll take care of this and check if any water suppliers are still open. When electricity and water shortages hit, we'd need advanced preparation. Water? I couldn't help but laugh, leading him to the unused guest bedroom. 200 water jugs stacked to the ceiling. Parker just stood there, stunned. Past midnight, exhausted from the night's terror, I fought to stay awake watching the news. No reports about zombies or the accident appeared. Worried, I left an anonymous tip on the police department's social media. Moments later, a news alert popped up. Major accident in Clearwater Bay South. The delivery driver called he couldn't get past building security. I told him to leave everything in the first-floor lobby. Stocking up for the apocalypse? Why'd you buy so much this late? After he left, Parker and I snuck downstairs under cover of darkness and wheeled everything back up. At 7 the next morning, I woke from a nightmare of being chased by zombies. Thick fog had rolled in, the sky ominously dark. Parker had made a feast fried rice, crab soup dumplings, BBQ pork buns, crystal shrimp dumplings, pineapple buns, wonton soup. You made all this? I learned at this great dim sum place during the competition. It was absolutely delicious. My phone started blaring. Messages flooded the screen. The biting incident from last night had gone viral. Official reports stated the woman and victims had been taken to the hospital for treatment. I recognized her. She was the woman pressed against the bus window, begging for help. My entire body went cold. The fog thickened. Looking down from the 33rd floor, I couldn't see the ground. Commotion erupted in the building's resident group. A man named Liam was sending frantic voice messages he'd left for work and nearly been killed by the infected woman who'd somehow ended up in our complex. Police and ambulance sirens grew closer, mixing with screams and panicked crowds. Parker decided to lock the fire stairwell door, our only possible entry point besides the private elevator landing. Chaos erupted below. Ding-dong, ding-dong. Urgent doorbell ringing came from outside. Thinking it was Parker, I moved to answer but froze. Wait, our fingerprint lock wouldn't need the bell. I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I grabbed yesterday's stun baton, opened the door a crack. An unidentified man wearing a face mask leaned against the wall, looking down at me. Who are you? His voice was hoarse. He suddenly swayed and collapsed straight toward me. I dodged. He fell face first onto the carpet. Hey, if you don't get up, I'm calling the cops. He didn't respond, completely unconscious. A sharp air raid siren suddenly blared. Attention all residents, lock your doors and windows. Do not go outside. The warning repeated, mixing with the emergency siren. Parker returned from locking stairwell doors. By then, I'd already secured our guest with cable ties from my random purchases. Help me. I'd been trying to drag him away. We carried him to the couch. I removed his mask, studying him pale, bloodless skin, strong eyebrows, defined features, masculine jawline, yet refined bone structure. Wait, was this a girl? To verify, I reached out to check. Soft, kind of small. I found only a phone with a shattered screen and a small light green pouch filled with seeds. River? Parker stopped short when he saw the unmasked person. You know him? He's in my department. Underclassman. Underclassman? A guy? I just groped his chest. Why didn't you say something when we were moving him? He was wearing a mask. I didn't recognize him. His hair used to be longer. Parker pulled up a message from his professor asking his son River to deliver new hybrid seeds to Parker. After confirming River had no grudges with us and wouldn't pose danger, I cut the binding ties. But no matter how Parker tried, River showed no signs of consciousness. Meanwhile, someone had accidentally filmed zombies attacking people. Thanks to zombie movies, everyone immediately realized these weren't rabies patients, they were actual zombies. Questions, curses, and panic flooded every channel. I had Parker, who'd been up all night, go rest while I grabbed snacks, pulled up a stool by the window, left the curtain cracked, and monitored updates. By 10 that morning, the sun rose and fog started clearing. Property management had mobilized all security guards, armed them, parked cars blocking the entrance. But a figure climbed through the convenience store's back window into the complex. I zoomed my camera to 60x. The man had obvious scratches and bite marks, bleeding profusely. A mother and son emerged from Building 1, hurrying toward him, apparently trying to meet him. After climbing through, the man's condition deteriorated. He collapsed, convulsing violently. The woman rushed over and bent down to check on him. In 2 seconds, the fully infected man lunged up, pinning her to the ground, savagely tearing into her neck. The transformation had been faster than Parker described, less than 30 seconds. It must have been the neck bite, close to the brain. Arterial blood sprayed everywhere. The little boy burst into tears. In the next instant, the man attacked him too. Watching made me sick. Meanwhile, the rioting residents at the main gate came under attack. The number of infected skyrocketed. Some assaulted security vehicles, dragging people out. The defensive line collapsed. After the horde rushed into the complex, they scattered. The family of 3 had mutated, attacking anyone in their path. Infection climbed exponentially. Residents who'd survived inside buildings closely monitored the situation. People on the ground were forced to scatter. Some hid in landscaping or water features. More ran toward buildings, only to find doors deadbolted from inside. They pounded desperately, broke down, then were cornered at their own doorsteps and torn apart. The complex looked like a slaughterhouse. As living people decreased, the zombie rampage gradually slowed. Opening social media, I noticed local topics kept suppressing the rabies patient story, but zombies had shot to #1 nationally. Turns out neighboring cities had also experienced similar riots today. Around noon, Parker still hadn't woken. I made instant ramen double eggs, tofu puffs, pickled bamboo shoots, boneless chicken feet. The sour, spicy flavor was perfect. Old Grudge 2, you there? Still alive? Old Grudge 2. Sunny Winters. Reply. Stop playing games. That persistent Ethan was bombing my messages on another alt account. Before I could reply, he video called, startling me so badly I almost knocked over my noodles. I declined with a dark expression. Excuse me, did your toilet explode? A polite but hoarse voice came from behind me. I turned around, baffled, to see the young guy who'd apparently woken up. Don't misunderstand. You must be Parker's girlfriend? I'm River. I came to deliver seeds. Seeing my silence, River nervously pulled out the seeds as proof, but after fumbling, couldn't find them. Panic flashed across his eyes. I'm not a bad person. I can fix your toilet. River was desperately trying to control his thoughts about what he'd witnessed coming here, worried I might kick him out. I looked down at my noodles, then back at the anxious young man, and burst out laughing. River watched me still holding my bowl, laughing uncontrollably, completely confused. He must be thinking, this lady's weird. Her toilet exploded, but she seems happy, and she's still eating. River, this is actually... But before I could finish, River suddenly realized the smell wasn't from a toilet, it was from my bowl. He maintained his last shred of politeness, burying deep the question, is she eating that? As I approached, he finally covered his mouth, clutched his stomach, and bolted for the bathroom. Oh, come on. I sniffed my noodles in disbelief. These smell amazing. After hiding for ages, I knocked on the bathroom door. No response. I was eating spicy pickled noodles, not anything weird. Also, I'm not Parker's girlfriend. I'm his sister, Sunny Winters. The door clicked open. River's eyes were rimmed with faint mist, thin lips pale, his entire presence drained. Yet that quality gave him a strangely haunting, almost ethereal beauty. Sunny, I'm really hungry. Do you have anything I could eat? Sure. What do you want? Anything except those spicy pickled noodles. Oh, then there aren't any. I couldn't resist teasing. Huh? River swayed, knees buckling. This time I was quick enough to catch him before he hit the floor. After struggling to drag him back to the couch, I fell into deep self-doubt. Does this kid have a medical condition? Maybe I just scared him. Parker, are you sure your underclassman actually fainted from hunger? I propped my chin on my hand, studying the unconscious sleeping beauty. Parker brought out dishes, oil-braised prawns, braised short ribs, tomato and egg stir-fry, mushroom and bok choy, corn and winter melon soup, all my favorites. The aroma drilled into my brain, but River showed no signs of waking. Yeah, I checked with the professor. Because of severe hemophobia combined with low blood sugar, River had passed out in the lab several times. That explained why he'd collapsed at our door. He must have seen the street riots. Parker had spoken with the professor that afternoon. The professor and his wife were out of state, safe. Parker decided to let River stay with us. I pulled out the lollipop from River's mouth, unwrapped a second one lemon flavor before popping it between his lips. Just hemophobia and hypoglycemia? I've got plenty of candy. But I'd only turned to wash my hands for a second. When I came back, I was stunned. River, apparently awake, was clutching a bowl, devouring food like a starving wolf. Already 3 bowls deep, a neat mountain of bones piling up. This kid should totally be a mukbang streamer. "Sonny, is there more rice?" By his 4th bowl, the rice was gone. River looked up with hopeful eyes. Didn't he go 3 days without food? After finishing, River volunteered to clear the table and wash dishes. The evening news broadcast urgently reported the emergency, instructing residents to shelter in place and await rescue. No one was permitted to leave the city. To prevent infection spread, all highways had been sealed. The live feed cut to a field reporter. Because exits were closed, countless cars trying to flee were gridlocked. Many civilians were agitated. As orders spiraled out of control, authorities fired warning shots. The chaotic scene fell silent. In the background, partially out of frame, a figure with an odd, lurching gait silently approached the crowd. Everyone was absorbed in worry, completely unaware. The creature suddenly lunged at a heavily pregnant woman. Blood sprayed across the lens, the camera accidentally capturing the woman on the ground, her belly torn open. A live-streamed horror show. The TV station immediately cut the feed. River, who'd just come from the kitchen, happened to catch that scene. His whole body went rigid, face draining of color. After questioning, I learned that yesterday, when he'd exited the subway, everyone was talking about someone with rabies going crazy. He hadn't paid attention until a running man knocked his phone from his hand. By the time River retrieved it, someone had stepped on it. In minutes, the entire street erupted into chaos. River saw someone covered in blood grabbing a woman, savagely biting her neck. The blood he'd frozen, unable to move until survival instinct kicked in. Snapping out of shock, River started running. The complex hadn't locked down yet, so he'd slipped in when someone opened the gate. "But you need a key card for our elevator. How'd you get to our floor?" I was puzzled. There was a man and woman also running in. They scanned to the 24th floor, so I got in with them. The guy noticed I didn't scan and asked. I said I'd rushed out and forgotten my card, told him which floor, and he scanned for me. "Do you remember what they were wearing?" The guy had a blue work uniform, the woman wore hot pink. Both had ID badges. Must be property management staff. I relaxed after hearing the description. The kid was clever explaining his missing card by saying he was a resident who'd forgotten it, rather than admitting he was an outsider. That night, the highway incident caused the situation to spiral completely out of control. Infected numbers increased dramatically, and vehicles that had fled unchecked spread the outbreak. None of us felt like sleeping, so we started taking inventory while unpacking my remaining packages. The haul included everything: toilet paper, toiletries, feminine products, clothes, bags, makeup, kitchenware, snacks, drinks, wholesale books, men's items, various plushies. Beyond that, 2 drones, a network signal booster, 4 security cameras, alarm door stoppers, and bizarrely pacifiers, baby bottles, toy handcuffs, and a toy gun. Parker and River looked at me with heads full of question marks. The gun and handcuffs were freebies from the camera store first 50 customers. The pacifiers and bottles came with powdered milk. I pulled up my order history to vigorously defend myself. Finally seeing proof, they suppressed laughter and looked away. We unpacked until after midnight. We assembled drones, set up a computer, and Parker and River installed cameras at the door, stairwell blind spots, balcony, and windows all networked to our phones and computer for real-time monitoring. Suddenly, an electric scooter below got bumped, triggering alarms. Zombies converged on the neighboring building. I squinted down but couldn't make out details. "Sis, come look." Parker called me over to the high-def camera feed. 20 to 30 zombies had gathered near the scooter shelter. 2 households ran out from Building 5, a middle-aged couple with a small girl and elderly person, plus a young couple. The families discussed something. The middle-aged couple handed car keys to the young couple at the door. Zombies were distracted by scooter alarms. The young couple seized the opportunity, ran to a car, started the engine. Sensitive zombies immediately lunged at the doors. Just as they were about to pass the entrance, the car's high beam suddenly flicked on. All light focused on the family of 4 at the door. Zombies that had been wandering instantly spotted their prey. The zombies' explosive speed left 0 time to run. In seconds, they were all dead. The mother desperately tried shielding her child, but was overwhelmed. The young couple used those 4 lives as a distraction to speed out, successfully escaping. Bastards. I clenched my fists and cursed. They'd never planned to take that family, just used their car to engineer escape. After crushing 5 bags of mini muffins in rage, I finally hugged my shark buddy and stormed off to bed. Parker and River stayed up cultivating new vegetable seeds through the night. Part 2. Survival. The next morning, I woke to deafening gunfire. Below, at the complex entrance, a SWAT squad in S-grade hazmat suits stood on military pickups, assault rifles firing at the zombie horde. In that hail of bullets, the once terrifying zombies suddenly seemed pathetic, weak, fragile. Just as residents celebrated in the group chat, one officer at the truck's edge got ambushed by a female zombie in a blind spot. She yanked off his protective mask. He and his teammates reacted quickly, dodging before counterattacking. But in those 15 seconds between losing his mask and getting a new one, I'd gotten a crystal clear look at his face. Old grudge, how is it you? My brain felt like it was exploding. In my mind, Ethan Cross had always been a useless, rich kid. But his movements were too practiced, tactical spacing, weapon transitions, the way he cleared angles. This wasn't some hobbyist who'd gotten lucky with SWAT recruitment. I immediately went back to our chat history. Old grudge 2. Fine, you're alive. Just stay put and wait for me to come get you. I hadn't had time to read this yesterday. I stood by the window, watching the pickup with complicated emotions. Is this how he's coming to get me? The military's rescue continued all day. By evening, most visible zombies in the complex had been cleared. When River typed a string of code and the entire complex's security feeds suddenly appeared on screen, I was genuinely shocked. I just took some computer science electives, putting them to practical use. River was extremely modest. By dark, no more moving zombies were visible. After switching gear, the SWAT team dispersed into buildings for rescue. The loudspeakers blared, instructing residents to gather on the first floor if possible. I frowned. The announcement was too loud, it would draw every zombie in range. I noticed a man in fresh hazmat suit staring intently at our building. Sis, let's go downstairs. Parker called me back from my daze. Okay. If the SWAT team hadn't come, based on our supplies, we'd prepared to wait it out for years if necessary. But now that they were here, they could transfer us somewhere safer. River installed an app that let us access all security feeds remotely. They pulled up our building's cameras, while I monitored externals. Residents were being successfully rescued and loaded onto a larger truck. Since our building was in a corner and cameras confirmed no suspicious people inside, plus Parker had locked all doors, we decided to take the elevator straight down. Backpack on, clutching my shark buddy, I followed Parker and River into the elevator when my phone rang. Unknown number. My instinct said it was him. I stared, torn between answering and declining, when my thumb accidentally swiped to accept. Robocall asking if I needed a loan. I'd gotten my hopes up for nothing. Annoyed, I hung up. The next second, video chat from Old Grudge. Did he just play me? I hit accept, but the elevator was on backup, battery power instability made the signal spotty. The screen just showed, connecting. The elevator stopped erratically on the 24th floor. Doors opened to reveal a man and woman wearing masks, supporting each other. Both wore property management uniforms. I glanced at River, who gave a small nod. These were the two who'd helped him upstairs. The woman helped the man in, making the cramped space even more confined. I stepped back to give them room. Sunny Winters? Ethan's anxious voice came through, mixed with static. Are you home, Sunny? I'm in the... Before I could say elevator, I noticed the male property worker slumped against the woman's shoulder, starting to convulse. Are you okay? River asked with concern. They didn't acknowledge him. The woman kept her head down, soft whimpers escaping while muttering, I'm sorry, over and over. Her companion's convulsions grew violent, his head tilting back to reveal rolled-back eyes. A blackened scratch mark showed below his Adam's apple. Precursor to zombification. Parker reacted quickly, hitting the next floor button and emergency call. The woman's whimpers turned into wailing while the man suddenly went still. I stood frozen, my breath catching in my throat. Time stretched impossibly thin. The next second, he violently threw the woman into the corner and began savagely tearing into her flesh. Run. The elevator reached the 18th floor. As doors opened, Parker pushed River and grabbed me. But as I stepped through, the zombified man grabbed my pant leg. Ah. Sonny? I screamed, accidentally hanging up. Through my peripheral vision, I saw the woman inside had been bitten beyond recognition. Parker grabbed my shark buddy, shoved it over the zombie's face, forcing it to let go as he kicked it back inside. He hit a button for a lower floor, rapidly pressed close door, managing to leap out just as it shut. We'd narrowly escaped. We were about to head back up, but the stairwell door was blocked. River tried the 18th floor doorbell, no answer. I leaned against the wall, hand shaking uncontrollably as I pointed. It's going back up. The elevator, which had reached the 2nd floor, was suddenly rising again. Someone on 17 called it. River pulled up floor cameras. A teenage boy and girl, around 15 or 16, waited for the elevator on the 17th floor. At this rate, more people in this building are going to get infected. Parker switched to the elevator interior feed, where both zombies were in full rampage. The next second, Parker ran to the ventilation window and jumped straight out. I nearly collapsed. Thankfully, River caught me. That bastard, Parker, leaving your sister here to fend for herself? Sis. Before I could process my grief, Parker's voice called from outside, along with his waving arm. I rushed to the window. Parker had jumped onto the small platform where AC units were installed, using the maintenance rung as an anchor point. Not actually leaping to his death. Okay, I'll give him credit. Sis, when the elevator gets to 17, you and River get in and leave. Once I lure the zombies away, I'll meet up with you. Parker kicked open the 17th floor ventilation window and jumped through. Right now, we didn't know how many residents were alive. If everyone made the same mistake as those 2 kids, the consequences would be unthinkable. I slapped the windowsill, looked around, grabbed a fire extinguisher. River, let's go. Floor 17, elevator doors opened. The 2 zombies, drawn by fresh prey, lunged at Parker. Parker maintained 1 body-length distance. Just as he was about to lead them to the ventilation window, Unit 1701, which had been tightly shut, suddenly cracked open. Ah! The girl peeking out screamed. The boy immediately covered her mouth. Too late. The male zombie redirected and charged at Unit 1701. Didn't Parker tell them to lock their door? The kids hadn't had time to lock the door at all. The male zombie crashed through. The female zombie continued chasing Parker toward the window. When he reached it with nowhere left to go, she let out an excited shriek and lunged. This was what Parker had been waiting for. He swiftly opened the window and jumped. The zombie, using too much momentum, launched itself straight out and plummeted from the 17th floor. Ah, ah. Continuous screams came from inside the apartment. River and I hadn't left. We'd taken the elevator down. Do you know how to use this? I fumbled with the extinguisher. River shook his head helplessly. I've got it. Parker, who'd climbed back up, didn't pause. He took the extinguisher and charged into the apartment. Inside was chaos from the kids and zombies' chase. They'd barricaded themselves in the kitchen with the glass door barely holding. The male zombie kept ramming relentlessly. Parker sprayed white powder, immediately reducing visibility. River and I stood in the doorway, throwing whatever we could grab to distract the zombie. It stopped attacking the door, letting out roars as it crashed around the powder-filled room. Come here, quickly. Parker, holding the extinguisher, ran toward the kitchen. Hearing his voice, the 2 kids opened the door and felt their way toward him. Somewhere they knocked something over, shattering glass. The girl's crying got louder. Stop crying, River suddenly shouted, hurling an apple in the opposite direction. The powder only temporarily hindered the zombie. If she kept crying, it would track the sound and trap us all. I was newly impressed. Not bad, very commanding. That shout made the girls' crying stop instantly. After Parker got to the kids, we immediately fled, locked the door from outside, tore down a tall emergency panel, and jammed it against the entrance using metal brackets from a broken railing, then took the elevator back to the 33rd floor. We locked our door securely. The 2 kids, traumatized, passed out cold. We carefully checked their bodies, no zombie bites or scratches, before temporarily settling them in the living room. Outside, sharp, concentrated gunfire rang out. River opened the computer to multiple camera feeds, switching to night vision. That's when we discovered large numbers of zombies flooding back into the complex from all gates. The SWAT team that had come for rescue had been scattered during operations and were now completely surrounded. But not a single resident on first floors opened doors to help them. Several officers in buildings ran out of ammunition and were overwhelmed, torn apart. Meanwhile, residents who'd already been loaded onto rescue trucks banded together to kick out the driver, then stole the truck and fled. I kept searching feeds for Ethan, finally spotting him in a corner behind Unit 2. He was covered in blood, hiding against the wall, partially concealed by a large tree in the zombie's blind spot. And in his arms, he held a long-haired woman whose condition was unknown. I stared expressionlessly at my phone, scrolling through concerned messages Ethan had sent after our call got cut off. I'd just drawn one conclusion. A dog can't stop eating shit. I'd almost fallen for it. Parker, are the drones fully charged? These zombies had poor vision, but extremely sharp hearing and smell at night. We suspected they'd been drawn here by the evening's loudspeaker announcements. They're ready. All right, let's give it a shot. River and I strapped a UHF speaker module to the drone while Parker operated its flight. Once it reached the Unit 2 entrance flight ceiling locked to 35 meters to maintain line of sight through the buildings, speaker draw limiting flight time to about 11 minutes, I remotely accessed the speaker and played the Great Compassion mantra. Mystical attack. Good thing Old Grudge was hiding close to our building. Any farther and signal wouldn't reach. The zombie horde, hearing the sound, converged beneath the drone. Parker, fly toward the main gate in tight arcs. Zombies that had been clustered at building entrances gradually dispersed as they followed. Surviving SWAT officers quickly moved to safer positions. A few buildings with residents who still had conscience let them into first-floor lobbies. Meanwhile, I watched Old Grudge carry the woman straight to the Unit 2 entrance, face no obstruction, and swipe his way inside using facial recognition. Oh, so he's been living here all along. No wonder. I slapped the table hard, startling River. Sonny, what's wrong? Nothing. I ground out through clenched teeth. Damn it. Even after 2 years, this bastard could still easily ignite my fury. No one had expected this rescue operation to end in complete failure because of poorly timed loudspeaker announcements. We questioned the teenage couple we'd rescued. After observing them for days, I noticed the girl was spoiled and defiant, while the boy was stubborn and single-minded. After they stole an entire shelf's worth of snacks from my warehouse and escaped down the water pipes from the rooftop, it was almost a relief. Having them here hadn't been part of our plan. Rescuing them had been coincidence. We'd done our part. The stolen snacks were just the price of cutting our losses. The day they left, Parker and River installed an electric fence around the rooftop perimeter, salvaging copper wire from stripped AC units, rigging a step-down transformer from the solar array. They tested voltage increments and current control, settling on 240 volts pulsed at less than 100 milliamps. The amperage was crucial, enough to induce neuromuscular lockup even in zombies, preventing traversal rather than killing. The first attempt overloaded at dawn. By dusk, they'd rerouted the circuit through an automotive relay. We officially began our apocalypse bunker life. Days 10 to 30. System collapse. The entire country had fallen. Our only connection to the outside world internet signal went dark. River cobbled together spare PCB boards, a discarded Wi-Fi router, and the signal booster I'd bought to create a mini cell tower. At least that kept security cameras running. Social media apps, though barely any users were posting. The internet, once full of toxicity, seemed purified. 5 days later, the complex lost power. Parker built a second solar generator based on his original design, 2 300-watt panels, scavenged from the building's defunct rooftop array, wired in series through a charge controller to a 12-volt deep-cycle battery bank with total capacity around 3.6 kilowatt-hours per day. Combined with light energy and wind backup, even extreme weather wouldn't be concerning. After the blackout, we weren't really affected. Except at night, we stopped using even the dim lamp indoors. When water service stopped 3 weeks after the outbreak, early January brought heavier snow and rain than usual. While we'd stockpiled water, every night Parker and River set buckets on the roof. The next day, they'd filter melted snow through activated charcoal and cloth for household use, supplementing our 3,000-liter reserve with about 30 liters daily. They also built a gray water recycling system using storage basins and manual filtration for laundry. On that massive snowstorm day, River helped me collect a huge barrel of snow, and we even built a snowman on Parker's balcony. But with both electricity and water cut off, many survivors seemed to be reaching their breaking point. The number of zombies roaming below kept increasing. Most were former residents who couldn't hold on. I spent my days curled up on the couch with snacks, binge-watching shows. Parker and River researched vegetables and monitored zombie activity. Day 45. I was hanging laundry by the bay window. A dark shape suddenly dropped from the building across the way. Before I could tell if it was male or female, zombies nearby instantly swarmed it. This was the 35th suicide in the complex since the outbreak. That same day, military helicopters appeared. Security footage from around 3 a.m. showed this silent helicopter evacuating surviving SWAT officers. When the rope ladder descended, I saw 5 or 6 men in camouflage emerging onto the neighboring rooftop. Old Grudge wasn't among them. Day 60. Parker had just collected this month's 3rd airdrop from the roof. Since the military evacuated people last time, our rooftop had been receiving food drops every few days, the aircraft dropping supplies late at night. This time, eggs, glass noodles, and fresh pork. After Parker thoroughly tested for toxins, I newly inspired harvested vegetables and personally made a northeastern stew. Unanimous feedback from both brothers: very good, don't make it again. I laughed it off, but quietly practiced my cooking skills when they weren't looking. The next attempt went better. Day 90. Bored, I dug up packages I hadn't finished unpacking and found yarn balls. After learning to knit from tutorials, I became obsessed with making sweaters, stuffed animals, and tote bags. Parker, my temporary male model, started looking resigned. River, though, was very supportive and wore the sweaters every single day. Day 100. New Year's Eve. Parker's cooking had reached God-tier levels. A whole table full of dishes. River and I were super enthusiastic about bringing dishes to the table and eating them. At dinner, I asked River why he used to be so picky. Turns out his parents' cooking was absolutely terrible, but they forced him to take homemade lunches to the lab, claiming outside food wasn't sanitary. It wasn't that he was picky, the food was genuinely inedible. He'd been secretly dumping it. I laughed. Seemed like what I cooked was still a cut above at least he ate mine. But mentioning parents seemed to sadden River. After the nationwide outbreak, his parents had gone silent. Parker and I tacitly changed the subject. For us, our only family was each other. On the first day of the new year, in the rooftop supply drop, I found a red envelope addressed to Sunny. Inside wasn't money, just 2 grape-flavored lollipops. My heart did something complicated in my chest. I pocketed them without telling the others. Day 150. 2 zombies below seemed to have their brains turned off. They walked face first into each other, then unwilling to back down, started tearing into one another. I bet River on who would win. I confidently backed the tall security guard zombie. 10 minutes later, I said goodbye forever to my last 2 packs of teddy bear cookies. The guard had lost. Not only lost, he'd been gnawed down to bare bones. This makes no sense. Day 180. One corner of the roofop's electric fence had a hole. Fortunately, we discovered it in time. Parker patched it while River cranked the current to maximum. That night, our doorbell rang. Through security cameras, I saw it was the girl who'd stolen from us. She looked even more haggard and wretched. I was surprised. I hadn't realized they'd continued hiding in this building and survived until now. The girl stood outside crying, begging us to take her in, begging for a long time. Seeing we were determined to ignore her, she started going berserk, attacking our door with the fire extinguisher. River, who was making spicy noodles with me, had been worried about the door. Until Parker informed him that after a burglar had once broken into my place, I'd upgraded to military-grade bulletproof, explosion-proof doors. Oh, then smash away. You have so much, why can't you share? It's just one person. How can you be so selfish? Why did you install that damn electric fence? You killed my boyfriend. You're murderers. You're no different from the zombies outside. Open the door. Oh, case closed. So they damaged the fence. The girl lay outside our door for 3 days, never giving up. Her shamelessness broke through my understanding of rock bottom daily. Right now, except for her and us, there shouldn't be any surviving original residents left in this building. We weren't worried about her causing trouble, just concerned she'd starve to death at our doorstep and curse us. On the 5th day, I had Parker leave a case of expired compressed crackers and bottled water outside. The girl tried to force her way in when Parker opened the door. "Let go! Let me in! Are you trying to feed these to a dog? Take these and leave immediately. If you show up here again..." Parker blocked her at the threshold, looking coldly. "Zombies have already broken out. I don't think anyone would notice one more dead person in this world." The girl seemed genuinely frightened. Without another word, she grabbed the supplies and bolted. Strong survival instinct. I suddenly remembered we hadn't received any airdropped supplies in a while. Part 3. The Experiment. Day 220. Parker and River pulled an all-nighter researching egg incubation. They both went back to their rooms to sleep during the day. I was curled up on the living room couch keeping watch. Comic getting to the good part, when the front door gave a massive thud. I jumped, checked the cameras. The 2 by our door had somehow broken, showing nothing but static. Other angles showed that after that thud, large numbers of zombies had suddenly gathered at our building's entrance. Panicking, I looked through the peephole. The hallway was empty. I crouched in the entryway, keeping watch for ages. The thumping didn't repeat. After Parker and River woke up, they retrieved the 2 cameras that had fallen, examined them, confirmed the wiring had shorted. But somehow, our explosion-proof door now had a fist-sized dent in it. River reinstalled the repaired cameras. For the next while, Parker and River took turns on watch duty. Later, when the thumping occasionally repeated, cameras always experienced signal interference. Investigations led nowhere. Day 250. When the thumping happened for the 5th time, Parker's trap mechanism caught the culprit. It was actually him, Ethan Cross, infected and fully transformed into a zombie. He hadn't attacked us, though. When I grabbed a baseball bat and furiously beat him 3 times, he showed no reaction. "Can't even feel pain anymore. Be careful." Old Grudge suddenly raised his hand slightly. River immediately pulled me protectively behind him. I wasn't sure if I was imagining it, but for that split second, Old Grudge's clouded eyes seemed to hold a flash of hurt. I must have seen wrong. I always do. But anyway, Old Grudge, I thought you were tougher than this. Parker examined him carefully. "Sonny, I don't think he's trying to hurt us. His movements are too controlled. Look, when you hit him, he shifted to protect his head instinctively, then stopped himself from retaliating. So what? He's still a zombie." "Maybe not entirely." Parker's eyes were thoughtful. "Some part of him is still conscious." Day 251. We were keeping a zombie in the stairwell. We didn't feed it meat or blood, just radishes and greens. Parker thought since Old Grudge hadn't attacked us, he might have retained human consciousness. His genes should contain some kind of antibody. The fact that he'd maintained enough self-control to avoid harming anyone suggested his cortical activity had somehow remained intact despite the viral transformation inhibition and reflex gating preserved even as motor functions. Degraded. Every day, Parker brought arm-thick needles to drain Old Grudge's blood for research. Looks painful, though he probably doesn't feel pain anymore. I watched from the doorway sometimes. Ethan would sit perfectly still while Parker worked, his clouded eyes tracking movements with an eerie focus. Once, when Parker's hand slipped and he cursed, Ethan's fingers twitched like he wanted to reach out and steady him. It was the most human thing I'd seen him do since the transformation. Day 255, the Old Grudge, who'd been tied in the emergency stairwell, disappeared. See? Where there's oppression, there's resistance. This time, even the door cameras were gone. Several fire doors had been damaged too, but not broken down. More like carefully dismantled, as if someone had been trying not to make noise. Parker found scratches on the doorframe, precise marks, almost methodical. "He's planning something," River said quietly. Day 270. I had a nightmare and woke with a raging fever. Half delirious, I seemed to hear gunfire outside the building. Shouting, the distinctive crack of military-grade weapons echoing off concrete. Parker sat by my bed saying we'd be rescued soon, telling me not to fall asleep. Through the fog in my mind, I heard him on the phone with River. "Keep monitoring. If those uniforms come near our building, you know what to do." Something about his tone sent ice through my veins even in my fevered state. Foreign, the word drifted through my consciousness. Not our military. Day 271. The last group of survivors in the complex was dead. They'd been murdered, lured downstairs by foreign operatives in stolen military uniforms, then systematically executed. Those people left no survivors. They'd gone building by building, calling out in Mandarin with slight accents, promising rescue. Anyone who emerged was shot on sight. The casualty list included that little girl who'd banged on our door. She'd given away our location before getting shot point-blank in the head. The security footage showed her pointing up toward our building, screaming about the people with supplies on the 33rd floor. The silver lining: the zombie horde erupted right then. In the chaos, the operatives extracted a white-haired old man from the complex's underground garage, the same researcher Parker had mentioned, the one from Clearwater Bay. They loaded him into an armored vehicle and disappeared into the city. River copied all security footage and audio recordings. The audio was damning conversations in what sounded like Russian or Eastern European languages mixed with Mandarin, references to the asset and biological samples. My fever broke that very night. When I woke, Parker was installing additional locks on our door, his jaw tight. They were hunting for research subjects, he said without looking at me. Living ones. Day 280. A sixth dent appeared on our front door. Wedged in the door handle was an extremely detailed antibody research report written in Ethan's handwriting, though shakier than I remembered. The previously lost camera was found with recovered data. Footage showed only Old Grudge and the white-haired man. Old Grudge really was a glutton for punishment. He'd actually gone to be that madman's live test subject. It must have hurt terribly. Later, in the recovered footage, I watched the white-haired man's experiments. Ethan strapped to a gurney. Syringes, blood draws, tissue samples. Viral load injections at escalating concentrations. His body convulsing, then stilling. The man's notes, visible in freeze frame: Subject 4 maintains cortical activity despite full transformation. Antibody synthesis confirmed. Proceed to phase 3. One clip showed Ethan still lucid enough to grip a pen, scrawling something on paper before the next injection hit. The camera angle was wrong. I couldn't read it fully, but I caught fragments. Data to Parker. Coordinates. Tell Sonny. The footage cut out. When it resumed, the white-haired man was gone. Ethan sat alone in the abandoned garage lab, slowly working himself free from the restraints. It took him 3 hours, his zombie strength, fighting against his human intention not to break the equipment that held his research notes. When he finally stood, he gathered every page, every vial, every sample, and then he walked out into the zombie-filled complex, carrying it all, and came to our door. Day 285. While helping me clean my room, River accidentally tore open the red envelope I'd received at New Year's. Inside the envelope flap was dense, tiny, messy handwriting. The phrase "stay alive" appeared most frequently. Mixed in, undercover blown 2 years ago during hospital visit, ribs broken in debrief. Father disowned me when I joined SWAT. Bought the place with hazard pay. Snack baskets every holiday your shop. Couldn't leave on the helo. Volunteered for the doc's trial. If I make it, the data gets you out. If I don't, the data still gets you out. Either way, you stay alive. It made my heart ache. I read it 3 times before my hands started shaking. River watched me with concern but didn't ask questions. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about all the times I'd cursed him, blocked him, thrown things at him. About how I'd assumed the worst while he was risking everything. About how I'd almost let him leave without knowing I understood. Day 300. Using the clues he'd left behind, Parker and River confirmed through experiments that the white-haired old man had been researching a zombie virus vaccine. But with limited equipment, the research results needed to be transferred to national authorities immediately. Parker worked around the clock analyzing the antibodies in Ethan's samples, comparing them against the viral markers in other zombies we'd observed. River handled the data encryption and signal routing, trying to find a secure channel through the dead internet. I kept watch on the cameras, monitoring zombie movement patterns, making sure nothing approached while they worked. 3 weeks into this routine, River suddenly shouted from his computer, "I've got something a military frequency, still active. It's distant but responding." We sent everything. Every bite of Ethan's research, every observation we'd made. The footage of the foreign operatives and their extraction of the Clearwater researcher. And we waited. Day 360. River finally contacted his father through special channels. Old Grudge's crucial research was successfully handed over. and we were transferred to a more secure safety camp. The military convoy arrived at dawn, actual Chinese military this time, verified through Parker's contact protocols. They came prepared with full hazmat teams, armored transport, and enough firepower to clear a path through the complex. As we packed our essential supplies, I kept looking at the security feeds. Somewhere in this complex, Ethan was still out there, still conscious enough to have saved us, but too transformed to be saved himself. "We can't take him," Parker said gently, reading my thoughts. "The vaccine is still in development. It might not work on someone this far gone." "I know, but I left something behind." On the rooftop, where the supply drops used to come, I placed a note weighted down with rocks. "Thank you. I understand now. Stay alive." And a full case of grape lollipops. Epilogue, many days after. The Clearwater Bay Research Facility was destroyed. The white-haired man had been the source of it all, a rogue scientist who'd continued banned biological weapons research in secret. The foreign operatives had been trying to extract him and his work, likely for sale to the highest bidder. The zombie virus vaccine and antibiotics were successfully developed. Many infected patients who received the vaccine slowly recovered, regaining consciousness and thought. Everything was gradually getting better. Parker and River both stayed with the research team. I joined a volunteer corps, following the SWAT unit under Old Grudge's command, the survivors who'd made it out back to Clearwater Bay for urban reconstruction. Along the way, I heard many stories about him, like how 2 years ago, during an undercover assignment tracking a weapons trafficking ring, he'd mysteriously slipped away to a hospital. During the post-mission debrief, suspicious traffickers had broken 2 of his ribs because they'd found out about his visit. Like how for his police career, he'd severed ties with his father and been thrown out penniless. He'd survived by taking the hardest, most dangerous assignments for bounty money. That's how he'd bought property in the most remote, expensive complex in the city. Like how during holidays, the normally thrifty man would buy everyone on his team luxury snack gift baskets every single year. From my shop. His teammates joked that he was supporting his favorite vendor's entire operation single-handedly. Like how when the zombies broke out, he'd been on one of his rare vacations. The night of the outbreak, he'd voluntarily returned to duty and requested assignment to the hardest-hit disaster zone. Like how that evening, he'd had the chance to leave with the helicopter, but volunteered to stay behind as the doctor's test subject. No one had expected the doctor to be a traitor. When they realized what had happened, they'd tried to mount a rescue operation, but the complex was already completely overrun. Every time the team specially arranged a food drop for him, he'd requested it be left on a different building's roof. And the only things he'd ever personally requested were 2 lollipops and an empty red envelope. Later, we searched all of Clearwater Bay and never found him. 6 months after the vaccine's deployment, I was manning a supply distribution checkpoint when a requisition came through for our sector medical supplies for a field clinic treating recovered patients. I volunteered to make the delivery. Something about the coordinates seemed familiar. The clinic was set up in an old shopping complex, converted into a recovery facility. As I wheeled in boxes of antibiotics and supplemental nutrients, I noticed the patients formerly infected, now restored. Some could walk. Others still needed support. All of them wore the same expression, haunted but grateful. "Delivery for Dr. Chen," I called out. "Here." A young woman in a white coat emerged. "Thanks. We're running low on everything. The recovery process requires—" She stopped mid-sentence, staring at something behind me. I turned. A man stood in the doorway, backlit by afternoon sun. Tall, lean, moving with careful deliberation like someone relearning their own body. His hair was shorter now. Scars marked his neck and hands, evidence of his transformation and treatment. But his eyes were clear. "Old Grudge," I said quietly, my voice steady for the first time in a year. "What took you so long?" He stood there, no longer the creature I'd last seen in the stairwell. Fully human, again thinner, scarred, eyes clear but haunted. Had to make sure the vaccine worked. His voice was rough, like he'd forgotten how to use it. "Couldn't come back until I knew you'd be safe." Behind us, Dr. Chen quietly excused herself, gesturing for the other staff to give us space. I walked forward slowly, stopped an arm's length away. "You're an idiot? You know that?" "Yeah." Ethan's mouth quirked barely a smile, but it was there. But I kept my promise. "Which one? Stay alive or I'm coming to get you." "Both." I punched his shoulder, not hard, but not gentle either. You're still buying snacks for everyone, aren't you? Old habits. He glanced at the supply boxes I'd brought. Though I might have to switch vendors. My favorite shop owner has been ignoring my messages. That's because she thought you were a stalker zombie. Fair assessment. The afternoon sun slanted through the converted mall's skylights, catching dust motes in the air. Around us, the quiet sounds of recovery continued footsteps, murmured conversations, the beep of medical equipment. The lollipops, I said. They were from you. Every supply drop I could arrange. He flexed his fingers, still getting used to them. I couldn't communicate well, but I could still access military supply channels. Old passwords, muscle memory. I made sure you got what you needed. We looked for you. Everywhere. I know. I watched you searching. His expression flickered pain, regret. But I wasn't sure if the treatment would work. Didn't want you to see me if I stayed. Like that. Idiot, I said again, but softer this time. Yeah. This time, when I reached for him, I didn't hesitate. Neither did he. His arms came around me carefully, like he was afraid I might break. Or like he was afraid this might not be real. I'm sorry, he said into my hair. For everything. For the breakup, for being a coward about it. I was undercover and things went sideways, and I thought if they knew about you... I know. I read your letter. All of it. You did? About 50 times. He pulled back just enough to look at me, something like hope flickering in his eyes. And you still owe me an explanation for those terrible snack basket choices. Who puts dried squid with chocolate? He laughed, really laughed, and it was the best sound I'd heard in a year. I'll make it up to you, I promise. You'd better. I have very high standards now. I remember. His smile grew. You always did. Around us, the clinic continued its work. Patients recovering, staff administering treatments, the world slowly rebuilding itself from catastrophe. But right here, right now, we were just two people who'd survived the impossible. So, I said, what happens now? Now? Ethan glanced around the clinic, then back at me. Now I finish my recovery, work with the research team, help develop better treatments. He hesitated. And maybe try to earn back what I lost. That's a long-term project. I'm good at those. He reached up, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, a gesture so achingly familiar, it made my chest tight. I waited 2 years before. I can wait however long it takes. What if I said you don't have to wait? His hand stilled. Sonny. 6th. Every 4. I'm not saying everything's forgiven and forgotten. You have a lot to make up for. But I took a breath. You literally went through hell to keep me safe. That counts for something. It counts for a start, he said carefully. Not a finish. Agreed. So what? We start over? Maybe not over. Maybe just correctly this time. His smile was soft, real. I can work with that. Good, because I have conditions. Hit me. 1. No more fake accounts in my shop. Done. 2. You actually explain things instead of making dramatic sacrifices and hoping I figure it out later. Reasonable. 3. You let Parker test whatever zombie antibodies are still in your system, because apparently I'm dating a medical miracle, and that's weird. Dating? His eyebrows rose. We're dating? We're trying, I corrected. Don't get ahead of yourself. Wouldn't dream of it. But his eyes were bright now, alive in a way they hadn't been even before the outbreak. Behind us, someone cleared their throat. River stood there, looking sheepish. Sorry to interrupt, but Parker sent me to check on you. He was worried when you didn't come back from the delivery. Tell him I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. River glanced between us, put 2 and 2 together, and grinned. Should I tell him you'll be late? Very late, Ethan confirmed. Days late, possibly. I have to get back, I protested. I'm on duty. You're also owed about 6 months of leave time, River pointed out. Parker might have mentioned that several times, while specifically suggesting you use it. I narrowed my eyes. Did you all plan this? No, River said, completely unconvincingly. That would be manipulative and inappropriate. River, okay, maybe a little. But in our defense, you've been miserable. He's been recovering and miserable. And Parker threatened to lock you both in a storage room if we didn't intervene. Parker said that. His exact words were, "My sister has been moping for months, and I'm going to fix it through force if necessary." So really, we're preventing a kidnapping. Ethan laughed again. I like him. You haven't met him properly yet. He's terrifying when he wants to be. Looking forward to it. I have to meet the person who kept you alive. We kept each other alive. Him, me, and River. Then I owe all of you. Ethan's expression turned serious. I mean that. Thank you for taking care of her. River shrugged, embarrassed. She took care of us too. We were a team. The best team, I added. And we still are. Which means I looked at Ethan. You're going to have to get used to family dinners. Parker cooks now. He's terrifyingly good at it. I can handle family dinners. Even if Parker interrogates you about your intentions? Especially then, I have very clear intentions. Which are? To stick around. To help rebuild. To earn back your trust. To maybe, eventually, not be an idiot anymore. That last one might take a while. I've got time. He glanced around the clinic again, at all the people slowly recovering from the impossible. We all do now. River excused himself, promising to tell Parker I'd be back tomorrow. As he left, he shot me a thumbs up that was so obvious even Ethan noticed. Your family is subtle. They really aren't. I linked my fingers with his carefully, aware of the healing tissue and new scars. But they mean well. I can work with that too. We stayed there for a while, standing in the converted mall where people were learning to be human again. Outside, the city continued its slow recovery, power being restored block by block, supply lines rebuilding, communities reforming. The apocalypse wasn't over. Not really. There would be more challenges, more setbacks, more dangers. But right now, with Ethan's hand warm in mine and the afternoon light painting everything gold, I thought maybe we'd be okay. Maybe we'd more than okay. Hey, I said, want to get some actual food? I know a place in the safe zone that supposedly has fresh vegetables. Lead the way. And after that, you're telling me everything. All of it. The undercover work, the hospital visit, why you really broke up with me. It's not a short story. Good. I've got all the time in the world. We walked out together, into the rebuilding city, and whatever came next. Behind us, the clinic continued its work. Ahead of us, the future waited uncertain, challenging, but possible. And for the first time in a year, I felt something that had nothing to do with mere survival. I felt hope. The end.